Yes, genetic testing can be biased. And today we're using lactose intolerance as an example to talk about it. Hello, I'm Xiao Yu. I'm a board certified clinical laboratory geneticist. Here on my channel, I share fun, useful information under the broad topic of genetics. So if you like it, if you're interested, please subscribe. Lactose intolerance. It refers to one's inability to digest lactose that's present in dairy product. Usually this is caused by insufficient or non-production of the enzyme lactase. And the test for lactose intolerance can come in two major forms. The first form are the tests that test the enzyme activity of lactase. So it can be either done directly by taking an intestine biopsy, which is not pleasant, it's invasive, so it's not done until absolutely necessary, or it can be done indirectly by measuring the blood glucose level and the level of hydrogen in one's breath after milk consumption. If an individual is lactose intolerant, then most likely the person will not have a rise of blood glucose after milk consumption, and there will be hydrogen present in this individual's breath. So that's the first form of testing. The second form is testing for genetic variants that's known to associated with lactose tolerance. So if you don't have those variants, then the conclusion might be you are at the risk of developing lactose intolerance at some point of your life. And that's where the bias comes in. We will talk about it in a minute. If you look up the internet, you'll see there are claims that says somewhere between 70% to 100% of Asians are in fact lactose intolerant. And if you think about it, this is a big discrepancy. And I believe this discrepancy arises from what kind of tests these claims are based upon. Those that says 70% Asian are lactose intolerant are mostly basing their claim on enzyme activity test, while the 100% Asian are lactose intolerance claim is most likely based on genetic tests. So when it comes to the genetics of lactose metabolism, there are two main genes that's most well known. The first gene is the lactase gene. So this is the gene that makes the enzyme that does the job. If there's any detrimental mutation in this gene, then the individual will not produce lactase. So they are going to be born to be unable to digest milk sugar. So this condition is called congenital lactose intolerant. So that's the first gene. The second gene is called MCM6. This is a gene that can regulate the level of expression of lactase. The MCM6 gene can be in some form or genetic variant that it leads to reduced production of lactase once the individual reaches adulthood. So that's called lactase non-persistence, also known as lactose intolerance. Or it can also take the form of variant in such a way that it does not repress the level of expression of lactose. These individuals are called lactase persistence or lactose tolerant. It's a different genetic variant of MCM6 that's being tested in genetic testing, and the results of which are used to predict whether or not you will be lactose intolerant. And there's a problem because these variants are discovered among Northern Europeans. It happen to be highly prevalent among Northern Europeans. So for Northern European, the presence or absence of these variants can be highly informative. But how about for the rest of the world? And these variants are present at much lower frequency in other populations, and they're virtually zero presence among Asians. So here's the problem. The genetic tests on the market currently target only the most common variants, meaning the ones that are discovered among Northern Europeans. In recent years, there have been studies showing that the absence or presence of these variants are not informative of lactose metabolism among Asians. There are studies performed among populations in Tibet, and there are studies performed on population in northern China. So if you are a non-European and you get a test result that says you do not have the variants that's associated with lactose tolerance, that result doesn't really mean anything. So here is how we can use lactose intolerance as an example to appreciate the bias in genetic testing. It is important for one to seek to understand these bias before they adopt the test and when they interpret the test results. So that's it for today. If you find it interesting and useful, share, like, and subscribe to hear more from a geneticist. Remember, the world is beautiful because we're different, and I love you to every single base pair.